The message arrived at 6:17 a.m., glowing on my phone like a small, merciless sun. We changed the locks. We don't trust you anymore. Welcome to A Story a Day, please. Subscribe our channel and where are you from? Watching our stories tell in the comments, thank you. For a long moment, I just stared at the screen. No greeting. No explanation. No call us when you get this. Just a clean, sharp sentence that cut through everything I thought I knew about my family. I was sitting on the edge of my bed, still half wrapped in sleep. The room cold and grey with early morning light. The phone felt heavier than it should have, as if it carried more than words, years, maybe, decades. Every slammed door, every argument swallowed instead of spoken. Every time I told myself, it's fine. This is just how families are. My first instinct was to call her. My thumb hovered over Mom's name. My heart beating faster than it ever had during any argument we'd had before. But something stopped me. Maybe it was the finality of the message. Or maybe it was the way she'd used we instead of I. As if the decision had already been discussed, agreed upon, sealed without me in the room. I locked the phone and let it fall onto the bed. The house was quiet, too quiet. I'd been staying in my old room since losing my job 3 months ago, trying to get back on my feet. Dad barely spoke to me. Mom spoke too much. Her words always circling the same questions. When will you find something? How long do you plan to stay? Why can't you be more like your cousin? I had answers, once. Hope, too. But hope doesn't pay rent, and answers don't matter when no one is listening. I got up and walked to the door. The handle turned easily from the inside, just like always. For a second, a bitter laugh escaped me. Changed the locks, she said. But not yet. Not while I was still inside. I packed slowly, deliberately. A backpack, 2 shirts, my laptop, the old watch Dad gave me when I turned 18, the one he hadn't noticed I still wore. With every item, a memory surfaced, uninvited and sharp. Christmas mornings. Family dinners that felt warm once. A time when trust wasn't something that could be revoked with a text message. When I reached the front door, I hesitated. Part of me wanted to leave a note. Something long. Something emotional. Something that would finally make them understand how hard I'd been trying. Instead, I opened my phone. My reply was short. Okay. I hit send before I could change my mind. The door closed behind me with a soft click. And as I stepped onto the porch, I realized something painful and freeing at the same time. They hadn't just locked me out of the house. They had locked me out of the version of myself that kept begging to be let back in. Locked out. By the time the sun rose fully, I was already 3 miles away from the house, walking without a destination. The air was sharp, biting at my lungs, but I welcomed it. Pain you can feel is easier than the kind that sits quietly in your chest, growing heavier with every unanswered question. I checked my phone. No new messages. No missed calls. Just silence, thick and deliberate. It told me everything I needed to know. They weren't angry enough to argue. They were done. I stopped at a small park near the old bus station, the one Dad used to take me to when I was a kid. I sat on a cold bench, backpack at my feet, and finally let myself breathe. My hands were shaking, not from the cold, but from the weight of it all crashing down at once. I wasn't just homeless. I was unwanted. I replayed the past few months in my head, searching for the exact moment trust broke. Was it when the bills started piling up? When Dad found the rejection emails I'd forgotten to close on a laptop? Or when Mom overheard me on the phone, lying to a friend, pretending everything was fine? Maybe it wasn't one moment. Maybe it was 1,000 small disappointments stacked so high they finally collapsed. Around me, the city woke up. Buses hissed to a stop. People hurried past with coffee cups and purpose. I watched them like they belonged to another world. A world where people had somewhere to be, someone waiting for them. For the first time in my life, I realized how fragile belonging really was. I thought about calling my sister. She'd moved out years ago, escaped early, built a life far from our parents' expectations. But pride held my finger still. I didn't want pity. I didn't want her to hear the shame in my voice. Instead, I opened my laptop and searched for jobs again. Same listings. Same requirements. 3 years experience. Immediate availability. Reliable background. I laughed softly at that last one. Reliable. Trustworthy. Words. That now felt almost mocking. My phone buzzed suddenly, and my heart jumped. For half a second, I hoped, stupidly, that Mom had changed her mind. That she'd say it was a misunderstanding. That she'd ask me to come back. It wasn't her. It was a message from an unknown number. Saw your post. I have a couch if you need it. No questions asked. I stared at the screen, unsure whether to cry or say thank you. A stranger was offering me more kindness than my own family had that morning. I typed back slowly, carefully. I appreciate it. I really do. As I stood up from the bench, backpack slung over my shoulder. One truth settled deep inside me. Being locked out hurts, but staying where you're not trusted hurts even more. Borrowed walls. The couch belonged to a man named Aaron, who lived in a third-floor apartment. That smelled faintly of coffee and old books. He didn't ask why I needed a place to stay. He didn't ask how long I'd be there. He just handed me a spare blanket and said, "You can breathe here." Those words did more for me than he probably realized. That first night, sleep didn't come easily. The ceiling fan clicked with every rotation, and the city hummed outside the thin windows. I stared at the cracks in the ceiling, tracing them like constellations, wondering how I'd gone from my childhood bedroom to borrowed walls in less than 12 hours. In the morning, Aaron left early for work. He wrote a note on the counter, "Help yourself to anything. Lock the door when you leave." The word trust wasn't written anywhere, but it was there in every line. I showered, letting the hot water run longer than necessary, as if it could rinse the shame off my skin. When I looked at myself in the mirror, I barely recognized the person staring back. My eyes looked older, tired, but there was something else too, space, like a room that had finally been cleared out. I spent the day walking the neighborhood, applying for jobs at cafes, warehouses, anywhere with a sign in the window. Each "We'll call you" felt lighter than the silence I'd left behind. Rejection from strangers didn't sting the same way. They didn't know me. They hadn't raised me. That afternoon, my sister finally called. "I heard what happened," she said softly. I could tell Mom had told her version of it. I waited for the lecture. The disappointment. It never came. "You can stay with me if you want," she continued, "but only if you're ready to stop apologizing for existing." My throat tightened. I hadn't realized how often I'd been doing exactly that. "I'm trying," I said. It was the most honest answer I had. That night, as I lay on the couch again, my phone buzzed. A message from Mom this time. "We need space. Don't contact us for a while." I read it once, then again. The old version of me would have typed paragraphs, explanations, promises, proof. I felt that reflex rise, familiar and desperate. Instead, I set the phone face down. For the first time, I didn't respond. And in that small, quiet act, something inside me shifted. Not healed, not whole, but steadier. I didn't know where I'd end up, or how long this in-between would last. But as the city lights flickered through the window and the fan clicked overhead, I understood one thing clearly. Borrowed walls could still hold you up, especially when the ones you were born into decided not to. Learning to stand. A week passed, then another. Time didn't heal anything the way people promised, but it softened the sharpest edges. I found a rhythm in Aaron's apartment, early mornings, quiet afternoons, late-night job searches that bled into exhaustion. I started working part-time at a warehouse on the edge of town. The pay was modest, the work repetitive, but every shift ended with something I hadn't felt in months: dignity. Each paycheck felt like proof, not to my parents, but to myself. My body ached constantly, yet my mind felt clearer than I had in a long time. There was no one watching, no one measuring my worth against expectations I never agreed to. Just me, moving forward inch by inch. Some nights, I came home too tired to think. Other nights, the memories found me anyway. I dreamed about the house often, the front door, the lock clicking. But in the dreams, I wasn't trying to get in. I was walking past it, hands in my pockets, steady and unafraid. One evening, my sister came by to see me. She brought takeout and that familiar look of concern mixed with pride. "They're asking about you," she said carefully. I shrugged. "They know where I am." She nodded. "Mom says she's waiting for you to take responsibility." I almost laughed. Responsibility? For what? For not becoming the version of me they could brag about? "I am taking responsibility," I said. "Just not in the way they want." My sister smiled sadly. "That might be the healthiest thing you've ever done." Later that night, after she left, I sat on the balcony outside Erin's apartment. The city stretched out below me in flickering lights. I thought about how much I'd given up trying to be trusted by people who only believed in me when I was winning. I opened my phone and scrolled through old messages, apologies I'd sent, explanations I'd overtyped, promises I'd broken simply by being human. My chest tightened, but I didn't look away. Then I did something unexpected. I deleted them. Not out of anger. Out of release. The next morning, I signed the lease for a small studio near the warehouse. It wasn't much. Thin walls, second-hand furniture, a view of a brick wall, but it was mine. When I turned the key in the lock for the first time, my hands trembled. This lock wasn't about keeping me out. It was about keeping me safe. That night, I lay on the floor of my empty apartment, staring at the ceiling, feeling both terrified and proud. I didn't know if my parents would ever trust me again, but for the first time, I trusted myself. And that, I realized, was how standing on your own really begins. The reply that mattered. I didn't tell my parents about the apartment. I didn't announce it, didn't send photos, didn't wait for approval. I moved in quietly, the way healing often begins, without witnesses. Weeks turned into months. The warehouse job became steady, then full-time. I learned the comfort of routine, early alarms, packed lunches, tired evenings that ended in sleep instead of worry. My life grew smaller on the outside, but steadier on the inside. I paid my bills. I cooked simple meals. I fixed a leaky sink with a YouTube tutorial and laughed when it actually worked. Some nights, loneliness crept in. Healing isn't loud, and it isn't heroic. It's silent. It's choosing not to reopen wounds just to prove they still hurt. One Sunday morning, my phone buzzed with a name I hadn't seen in months. "Mom, your father misses you," the message read. "We were worried you wouldn't survive on your own." I read it slowly, noticing what wasn't there: no apology, no acknowledgement of the lock, no ownership of the pain, just concern wrapped in doubt. For a moment, the old instinct returned. To explain, to defend, to show receipts of survival, pay stubs, photos of my fridge, proof that I was finally worthy of trust again. I set the phone down and made coffee instead. As the steam rose, I understood something clearly. Trust given conditionally is not trust at all. And love that only appears when you succeed is not love. It's a contract. I picked up my phone again and typed. My reply was short. "I'm doing okay. I hope you are too." I didn't ask to come back. I didn't ask for forgiveness. I didn't ask to be trusted. I sent it and felt no regret. Later that day, I visited my sister. We sat on her balcony, watching the sun dip behind the buildings. She looked at me for a long moment and said, "You seem lighter." "I am," I replied. And I meant it. That night, back in my apartment, I locked the door and leaned against it, breathing in the quiet. No footsteps on the other side. No voices measuring my worth. Just peace. They changed the locks because they didn't trust me. But losing their trust forced me to find something far more important, my own. And for the first time in my life, that was enough. Thanks for watching this story. Please subscribe. A Story a Day. Thank you.